Hi, welcome again. This is Chris at King of the Attic Studios, doing a little handheld little photography here, and we're going to show you some of the things with the large format analog mixers. So we're going to actually let you look at one of our consoles. Sorry about the hand in the view there. And we're just going to go through a couple of quick things. And we'll touch base on it to kind of see what's going on and give you a little feel for what a large format audio mixer looks like. I'm going to switch this over. Okay, so here we're looking at our Yamaha 4000, PM 4000 to be specific. It's basically what you would consider to be a front house production board, but we use it for recording because basically we do live recording, live streaming, and as such, we just find a need for a nice monster board. It has all the quality of most recording consoles, and it does what we need it to do. So as we talked about in our earlier previews here, you can see here when we're talking modular, for those that are not familiar with this board, you can see these channels are all separate strips, of course, and they come down here to the bottom, and there you go. And if you're going to remove them, you take these two screws out and a couple screws in the back, which we'll show you a little later because we actually will take modules out, but not in this segment. We'll get advanced later. But anyways, that's what a totally modular console or board would look like. And you can see as you get down here to some of your other functions, it's totally modular. And then your output monitoring strips, they are also totally modular, as we talked about before. So food for thought, and that's basically what it looks like. We also talked about on our earlier videos what the solo mode would look like, and like I said, this one's like a rocket launcher, and then when you put it in that mode, that tells you when you play with solos on the board, it's going to cancel everything out like a recording board. And for PA work, well, you wouldn't want it to do that. So basically, that's why it's got that rocket launcher switch on. You see it's blinking here to say, oop, don't touch that or you're going to lose everything except whatever you touched for the solo. So anyways, we'll turn that off. That's what it does on this particular board. A lot of boards have that same similar sort of function. So there again, it can be a PA board or a recording board with all the functions that you normally would associate with a recording board when you solo it. So that's basically what most of it looks like. I'm going to reach over here and grab my little laser. So when you're coming into this board, obviously, you're going to have your balance for odd and even channels, which is typical on most boards. You're going to have your gain control here. So obviously, you're going to turn your levels up and down. You're going to be able to turn on your phantom power if you want to turn on your phantom power. You do have a pad here, which is basically just more resistance to pad things down. Of course, if you've got a signal that's too loud, and you're going to just add more resistance to it. And phase, most of them all have some sort of phase on them. Then you're going to get into your next section, which is going to be your EQing section. And I'll just kind of hone it in on for you right there. And you see there's a spot right there, and you push that little button, and then of course all your little EQ is going to be here right there. There's actually your EQ button. That's just another function of this other one here. So anyways, that's your EQ section. And as you can see, when we say in large format, I mean the knobs are small because you got so many of them, but they're still what we consider to be full-size knobs, full functions. You got enough space between them that you can reach them, and of course different knobs do all the different frequency cuts as you need, and you can kind of do them there. Then you have another little high pass filter, which most consoles boards have, just to give you a little shelving and a little bit functionality to your tone control. This particular board, since it's used for very high-end type of live mixing, you have a lot of auxiliaries because there again you send things a lot of places or add in a lot of different effects and processors and whatnot. It can be used for all sorts of functions, but there again, on the board this size, you got 8 auxiliaries, and you have 2 stereo auxiliaries, and that gives you a lot of sending things to different places kind of options. And then of course you have your on-off, which in this case we're talking through right now, but basically So that's a mute. On this particular console, it's fairly sophisticated. You have down here this section. This determines what you want to mute as far as these different lights coming on for channels that you want to mute. So here you would come here, and this section is your master. So depending on what channels you want on or off, you can play with different functions. And see, this one particularly for certain recording purposes, we have those channels slated to come on, and you can preset those with these down here and decide what you want on or off as you play with these buttons here. So that's a master mute. Most say boards that you start off with, or most intermediate boards, may not have a function. You just go to basically mute something or not, but this gives you like 8 different programs kind of settings that you can do different mutes on it. So as I say, basically you can pick different things that you want on and off according to what you're going to play with down here. So you can number these any way you want, as I say, with these, and decide what you want on and what you don't want on. We'll get into some of those exclusive features, and later on, when it comes time to get into the more technical aspects, we can show you exactly what each one of those can do and what maybe you might want to eliminate. So anyways, that's as far as your basic channel would be. So in this particular case, and it was with all mixers for say that are large format, you have microphone inputs, which we'll show you all that later on the back. You have line inputs, which most mixers have, and of course you can go back and forth or pick, whichever ones that you want, and that's about it. So a channel is a channel. It's just that you have many more of them here, but basically you're dealing with a mic or a line coming in, 8 different auxiliaries that you can add to it, 2 other stereo auxiliaries that you can send to and from, and decide what channel, whether you want it on or off. And that's that basic function. Now, when it comes to subgroups, in other words, what most large format consoles have is a number of subgroups. In other words, you can determine a bunch of things that you want to grab and put in the same mix or the same channel, or whichever terminology you want to put on it. And basically, these are your subgroups. So you have those, there's 8 of them along here, and you decide up here, each channel, you can decide if you want to send that to 8 of these, or if you want to send that to the stereo mix, which sends it to here, or if you want to make it independent, and then you can also change it to another location. But those are your most basic functions. So, and then you have here what we call a voltage controlled amplifier section. That's these buttons here. And what that does is it has a circuit that's electronically controlled, so the sound doesn't pass through the fader itself. It passes through electronics and is guided by your fader. So the function of the fader is actually almost like a light dimmer does to a light. You move that control, but the voltage is controlled somewhere else. So anyways, make a long story relatively short for a novice, it's an electronic way of playing with your volume levels and gain that's electronically controlled, and it's much superior to just passing that sound through a rheostat or a slider per se, because the electronics are compensated not to degrade the sound regardless of what level you're setting it at for the most part. And some of these voltage controlled amplifiers actually act as a moderate type of compression, which can color the sound very slightly, but in a good way if you want it to. That just kind of adds that little softness to vocals and that sort of thing. It takes that hard edge off them. So if you do decide to voltage control it, you will just get a really nice soft effect on it without being too obtrusive. In other words, you would barely notice that it's there, but to the trained ear, you can say, geez, that has a much smoother type of sound. So the voltage controlled that it goes to, it does have that effect. Plus, when you're summing various things, it just gives you an electronic way to do it, and basically, and actually control those groups electronically. So even though it's not computerized, you do have some functions that basically are electronicized, if you want to call it that, so that you can run your voltage controlled groups and decide what groups you want. So basically you can set up almost like a little program, just like you do with your mutes. So you do control different scenes, if you want to call it, with your mutes and with your voltage controlled subs. And it's just another more professional way of mixing things and adding different type of scenes to it, or what we call matrixing to it. Then we do have a matrix system to this board, which is a function that basically things from your subgroups, either ones that you're using, and get there, you kind of see it right there. Anyways, things from your subgroups and other things can be sent to this matrix, and that's almost like a mixer within a mixer. So in addition to all the other auxiliaries that you have and all the other sends and things that you have, you can still create another tailored mix from any channel or any source that you want to send there, and you have another 8 matrix mix, if you want to call it that, or like an 8-channel mixer that can pick up any channels that you want to send to it, and it has separate outs that are controlled, separate mutes that are controlled, and there again it can be sent back to the main board and your main levels, or it can be sent out separately. So it gives you a lot of options. In our particular case, since we're doing live audio and live recording and live PA all simultaneously, we run various mixes, so I say, through this matrix and control our amplifiers so that our PA mix can get the proper drive levels and what we want to send to it to drive the main house PA for the live section. All your main channels are going to be sent to your recorders, so you can have the best of both worlds. And then some of your other auxiliaries, we're either using them for inserts, or we're using those to control sends that control monitors up on the stage. So in our particular case, we are recording 24 channels live in to our 24-track recorder. We are taking any channels that we want, sending them to 8 specific channels, and sending that to our stage monitors for the live portion of what we play. And that way we can control the monitors. And then we also take any channel or anything from anywhere and be able to send it to the normal, what you would call PA masters, which are PA, some other things that are on here. So different things that you can send to there, like that one there too. So we have 4 other streams that we can tailor and mix that we can send to the amplifiers for the main house PA. So we are simultaneously recording 24 tracks, 8-channel monitor mix, and also a full PA system, just like you'd see at any rock concert, all simultaneously from the same console. So it's all done here, and we have the capabilities of doing all that, all independent from each other. Plus, we use this section of this console to play back all 24 channels from the recorder, also completely separate. So we don't have to flip-flop, as they say on some boards, where you're simultaneously using channels for one thing, then come back to the channel and flip it so that you can hear what you record. So in other words, we're going to record on this side, and we're going to play back on this side. And if you want to make any EQ adjustments for either or, they're not going to affect it. So in other words, we're recording and playing back simultaneously if we want to, and we don't have to change anything. All our PA mixes are all completely separate. So we run all these systems, and they are all more or less isolated from each other as much as you can, but they are virtually all run independent of each other. So that's a big thing when you have a board of this capability. Now that goes probably beyond what most people would want to do. And if you're in a recording studio scenario, you're not going to be worried about your live PA system. So all the rest of the functions of the board you would use to record with and play back, but you wouldn't be worried about stage monitors and you wouldn't be worried about live PA. But there again, you do have that capability with this console, board, mixer, whatever you want to call it. And if you're in a PA situation, you'd be using almost all these functions. And if you were recording your show live, you'd be doing what we're doing anyway. So you would be recording, playing back PA monitors, except most big concerts, we do control the monitor section from the stage with a separate board, only because the guy is closer to the monitors and the mics. And if you run into an issue, they generally control it there. And here we're in a smaller situation. We prefer just to do it all off one board rather than run back and forth. But it's the same concept. It'd be you'd have a separate monitor board, which would take the place actually of this section that we're using for playback here, and you would just control your mics and monitors from there, as opposed to controlling them from here. You're closer to them there, and you can actually hear what they're doing better there in a live scenario. So that's the way you do it. But anyways, here being a little bit more compact, we're controlling it all off one console as opposed to using two consoles. But in essence, this is almost like using 2 or 3 consoles, except it's just all together. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into some of the things that this particular mixer can do, and we'll delve into some of the very specifics for the guys that are interested in the PM4000 and actually want to get in depth to a little closer to each one of these knobs and what they do, and maybe where we're sending some of the things, and we'll be able to show you the back of the board and show you what we got there, and eventually we'll pull some channels out and show you how they come out and what they look like. There's very different jumper settings on some of these cards that you can select and change some of the parameters of these cards. And for the pros, there are some jumpers and some sort of switching and things that you like to do to these channels for specific use. Maybe the novice isn't going to do that, but later on in your travels, you may find a need for that. Anybody studying these boards, you've probably seen the manuals online and you got a fair idea what it's doing, but it's always nice just to kind of really see a picture and see what it looks like. But for the real technically inclined, there's probably not much that I'm going to show you here that maybe you don't know just out of interest, or you maybe just want to see with your own eye what it looks like. But if you look in the manual and you know what's going on, you'll have an idea what to do. But maybe physically you don't have a board like this, you know what to do, and you just physically would like to see what that actually looks like, then I'd be glad to show you exactly what's going on with it. So we're going to stop this segment now. It's been fairly lengthy, but we thought we'd try to cover a lot of things in one, because as I say, I've had a lot of people that kind of wanted to see what we're doing with this console. And so I'm more than happy to show it to you. So that's it until next time. And then, like I said, we're going to delve into a lot more specifics. And that's it. We'll see you next time. Contact us on King of the Attic YouTube channel. Got any comments, any questions, anything you want us to discuss, or anything you want to see? If you're interested in the studio itself, come and see us. We do live streaming, live recording. We do everything from A to Z. We have a theater set up here with 40 seats, although we got COVID right now. But we're good to go here. We hold rock shows here, rock concerts here, live streaming here, theater scenarios, corporate scenarios, you name it. We do it all here, A to Z. King of the Attic Studios. Catch you later.